There is so much conversation right now about homes being unaffordable and mortgage rates being too high, and the conversation has shifted to, is this even still worth it? And on one level, I get it and I understand it. And on another level, it really concerns me because it tells me we have a whole bunch of people that absolutely do not understand how money and wealth building work in a time where it's really important to understand how that works. I want to explain to you why buying a primary home might be one of the most important things you choose to do financially for the rest of your life. First, let me explain the traditional reasons, say for your parents' generation or anybody older than you, why they felt like buying a house was a good deal and it's something that everybody did. So the first reason is because when they bought a house, they were investing in a piece of real estate that was going to grow in value over time. When you buy a house, there are three ways that it can grow in value over time. The first way is just simple supply and demand. How many homes available versus how many people want to own a home. And as supply shrinks and demand increases, which has very much been the story for the last decade plus, home prices go up, which dramatically benefits people that own homes. The second way your home can grow in value is by principal repayment. When you make the mortgage payment each month, a little bit of the money in the earlier part of the loan and then more as the loan matures goes back towards principal, which decreases your debt and increases your principal or your equity in the property. The third way your home can grow in value is through inflation. And this is a really huge one and it's key because as they print more dollars, which is monetary debasement of our currency, real assets go up in value. This creates a fantastic hedge and a layer of insulation between the homeowner and the inflation that's happening in the country. The second traditional reason your parents and everybody else felt like buying a home was a good thing was simply because you had ownership and control over the asset. These are wealth building mindsets, and it's very, very hard to put into a spreadsheet all the value that can come from this, the emotional sentiment, and just being able to have control over your own space and to raise a family there. And ultimately, ownership is a major part of the American dream, and it's very much something we take for granted here. It's much harder to own assets, and specifically real estate, in many of the other countries and even many of our allies abroad. Third traditional reason everybody felt like buying a home was a good idea was because it freezes your cost of living. Rent can change from lease to lease, which is typically from year to year, and typically it just goes up over time. When you have a mortgage payment, the principal and interest portion of the mortgage, which are the biggest and most important pieces, become frozen in time. So even though there's inflation or even though the value of the house goes up, that nominal value of your mortgage payment, that $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000 a month you pay, stays fixed. Some people have described this as a short against the dollar. A 30-year fixed rate mortgage can be a short against the dollar, which is a wealth building opportunity for you. So those are some of the traditional reasons Americans have always prioritized owning a home. Not all of them, but some of them. So here's what I would say is the most important modern reason to own a home. And it comes down to one word, which is inflation. And this is really frustrating because this is the one thing that you should have learned in economics class in high school or whenever, and it's just not taught. For our purposes, just understand that when they print money, your wage, your salary, your $80,000 or $100,000 a year shrinks in real value. It can purchase less. So nominally, the numbers stay the same. You make 100, you're still earning $100,000 a year, but the real value has been eroded, and that's what matters. So wages decrease in real value when inflation happens, and asset prices like real estate increase when inflation happens. So you've heard a lot about the haves and the have-nots, right? And there's this big wealth gap right now between the younger generations and the older generations, and it's never been this bad. It's all over the headlines, and everybody's talking about it, and there's lots of uninformed opinions about why this is and what we need to do to fix it. It's because of inflation. It's because the older generations have what I refer to as a wealth basis. They bought homes, they had money in their retirement account and in stocks and all these different things before massive amounts of inflation in 2020 to 2022. And so again, it's like a buoy rising with the water level. They have a layer of insulation from the harmful effects of inflation that you don't have. This is the key of why it is so important to buy assets. Assets shield you, at least partially, from inflation. And it really is mind-boggling to me because I'll have conversations with people about buying a house or, hey, have you ever considered keeping your house as a rental? And they'll just kind of look at me sideways like, oh gosh, I mean, that's just too much. Like I've got too much going on. I might have to deal with a toilet. If you're worried about dealing with toilets, by the way, just don't have kids. Trust me on that. But the younger generations, millennials specifically, kind of shrug off the idea of keeping a home as a rental property because it's just not their thing. Well, can I tell you whose thing it is? There's a lot of demand for your house that you don't want anymore. BlackRock wants it. Other investors want it. Real estate investment trusts want it. There's a ton of capital out there that doesn't belong to a family or a homeowner that are trying to buy houses. So what is it that BlackRock knows about single family homes that you don't know or that you just don't care about? So what am I saying? The modern reason you should consider buying a home is because you are going to need leverage to get ahead of inflation and to stay ahead of inflation and to have a shot. And buying a home is a form of leverage. Let's say you're going to go buy a $500,000 house. You can buy, if you're a first-time home buyer, you can buy a $500,000 house for 3 to 5% down. 3% down is $15,000. You can buy an asset worth $500,000 for $15,000 down. If you were to pay attention to 90s financial advice and do what they tell you to do, you would take that $15,000 and go buy Apple stock or S&P 500. And for that $15,000, you would be able to buy $15,000 because that's how it works. But in real estate, you can buy $500,000 of real estate for $15,000 of your own money if you are buying a primary residence. So let's break this down. First of all, I should point out that an investor buying the same home you were going to buy would have to have at least 20% down, which would be $100,000 down. But you can get the house that they want for $15,000 down. Here's where it gets interesting. Growth on asset value is calculated on price. So if your $500,000 house appreciates a measly 4%, that's going to be a $20,000 gain, and your $500,000 house is now worth $520,000. And this is where it gets a little tricky, is because people are going to say, well, gosh, I could have taken that same money and had an 8 to 10% return in the stock market, because that 4% return on real estate is actually 133% return calculated on the money that you put in. So if you put in $15,000 and the home grows 4%, which is $20,000, your $15,000 just returned an additional $20,000, which is a 133% return. So it's not accurate for the 90s financial advice people to say, oh, you could have made 8 to 10%, you only made 4%. That's not apples to apples. If we're looking at return on equity, equity being your $15,000, your real estate appreciated 133%, and your stupid Apple stock or your stupid S&P 500 appreciated 8 to 10%. And just as a reminder, as the price goes up, that mortgage stays fixed. And so now you're saying, okay, great, maybe I'm buying all this, but how would I even do this? It's still unaffordable. It's still too expensive. The rates are still too high. Here are 3 ways that you can go buy your first house. The first thing I would say is that if somebody in your family offers to help you financially with a down payment, you should consider letting them help you. If they want to give you some money to make this easier, you should consider that as an option. There is going to be a massive wealth transfer between the older generations to the younger generations over the next decade or two, and it's already starting to kind of begin and cascade right now. So if somebody offers to help and you have a good relationship with that person, it's totally legal for them to give you a gift that doesn't have to be repaid as a down payment. The second strategy to help you buy a house today involves your debt to income ratio. Past the down payment problem, the next problem is usually, oh, well, the mortgage payment just doesn't work. I can't afford to get what we need to be able to get because my income and the debt I would have with the mortgage, the lender's not going to give me the money. It just doesn't work. So the way you can beat the debt to income ratio problem is you can have a cosigner on your mortgage. Again, this is usually a family member who's offering to help. They need to have good credit. They need to have some room on their own DTI ratio to take on your debt as well. But the two of you together create more space for the mortgage that you're trying to take on. And then the third strategy for buying a house today, you're saying, I don't have any family that's going to help me. Well, guess what? You only need 3 to 5% down to go buy a house. You don't need 20, you don't need 15, you don't need 10, you don't need to get a 15-year mortgage. You can just get a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. And 3 to 5%, again, if you want to buy a $500,000 house, can you come up with $15,000? You might already have it. It might be sitting in an account that you could repurpose to go buy this house. Do I understand things are expensive and rates are a little bit higher right now? Yes. But what I want you to understand is this is still doable. It's still doable and it's still worth it. So if you take anything from this video, take this away. It's not too late to go buy a house, and it's still one of the best deals out there. But you need to stop waiting around. Now is the time to get out there and go secure a piece of your financial future. Talk to a realtor, talk to a mortgage lender. If you don't have either one of those, reach out to me and I'll help you find a really good one. I hope this was helpful. It is not too late. Go figure it out. Go make it happen.